Hey, I'm Jen, and welcome to On Air, our little corner of the internet where we get to talk about all things travel related. Now, we know airport testing has been in the news quite a lot, and we wanted to get some experts in to have a chat about it instead of taking a stab at it ourselves. So, very excited to be joined by Scott from Collinson today. Scott, how are you?
I'm well, Jen. How are you?
I'm not too bad, thank you. I'm not too bad, thank you. Now, I know Collinson has been in the news quite a lot recently, so could you perhaps start by telling us a little bit about what it is Collinson does?
Sure. Well, Collinson's actually quite a diverse group, and many people would know us from our lounge products like Priority Pass. But one of the things that we've been doing for many, many years is providing medical services to travelers and to expatriates overseas. But since the pandemic, the need for those services has reduced because people are traveling less, but actually the need to start testing people and making our borders safe has increased. And we've started to redeploy our medical services to that task.
Okay, cool. And we obviously know that most of travel is essential at the moment, but what has the uptake been of airport testing for you?
Actually, very strong. Over December, January, February, we've done about 160,000 tests at Heathrow, Manchester, Luton, Stansted City, and East Midlands airports. So we're helping a lot of people get on planes who might otherwise have struggled to do so.
Okay, wow, so you're definitely kept very busy then. Now, as someone who has never had a test, there's definitely quite a few of us out there. Is there anything to be worried about?
And there certainly isn't. The testing process is actually very, very straightforward and painless. It's very, very quick. Typically it's a shallow nasal swab, so a bit of cotton wool in the shallow extremities of your nose, or a shallow throat swab. Again, painless, takes about 30 seconds.
Okay, that doesn't sound too bad then. Now, as someone who's never had a test personally and someone who's a big fan of knowing what to expect, what actually happens when you go for a test?
Sure. Well, the first thing is that you register online. So you come online, you give us some basic information about yourself, passport details, date of birth, so we can put those things onto a certificate. Tell us a bit about where you're traveling and book an appointment. You can then come into one of our centres. We're at most of the major airports. You come in and you would go to the reception desk with your passport, identify yourself. You would then go through into the facility where a nurse will basically take a swab. And as I said, it's a 30-second process, very, very straightforward. And depending on what the test you're taking is, the outcome might be might occur in a number of different ways. So if it's a PCR test, which is the test a lot of people know about, it's the test that the NHS use here. The result won't be known for 24, 48 hours. And so you would leave the center at that point, and at some point over the next day or two, you would then get something electronically, which will give you your result and your certificate if you're a negative or positive. If you're taking a lab test, which is one of our rapid tests, which are accepted in many, many countries, you could leave the facility and your result will be ready in about 90 minutes. So you can go away and have a coffee at the airport, and in 90 minutes time you'll get notification either on your smartphone, or you can go back to the facility and get a paper certificate. Another one of our rapid tests is an antigen test, which a lot of people are also very familiar with these days. It's also called a lateral flow test, and again you see those in the NHS all the time, and those are very, very rapid, so you can get a result in 10-15 minutes.
And how does someone know what type of test they should be booking?
It can be quite confusing to know which test you require. Every country is different, and the many countries have different requirements in terms of the type of test that they will accept, and also things like the technical details, like when you can take that test. How far back before you get on the plane is it acceptable to take a test? One of the best ways to find out is to go to the government's FCO site. They maintain a long and usually pretty accurate database of countries and testing requirements. But equally, I would recommend that people still check with their airlines prior to going to the airport, just to make doubly sure that they're aware of what the airline specifically requires for boarding.
That's really helpful, thank you. Now, hopefully the test comes back negative, but there's obviously a chance that it may come back positive. What would you recommend that person does then?
Well, the guidelines are fairly concise. Typically, what would happen is one of our nurses will be in contact with that person to talk them through the finding, and also talk them through the disease itself. So give them some suggestions about how they might best look after themselves over the next few days, things to watch out for, things to, what to do when should the disease progress and get worse. But the government guidelines are that you should then leave the airport, go straight home by the means that you came to the airport with, and then quarantine for 10 days.
Okay, got it. Return home, stay quarantined for 10 days. And lastly, say someone needs to travel quite urgently. What one piece of advice would you give them before heading to the airport?
And my suggestion would be to understand the testing requirements as early as you can, and take a test as early as you can too. So I would, as soon as you're able to, under the guidelines given by the country, I would get that test. So you have the certificate and the result in plenty of time to board the aircraft.
Scott, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today. Hopefully people have found that really useful. And if there's any other comments or questions about testing, pop them in the comments below and we'll do our best to help you out with them. Now, that's all we've got time for today on Air. We'll see you next Thursday.